Okay, question number 2, Terry. With budgets being strained, what is your feeling about keeping or cutting full-time school nurses?
Well, I think being in, and having worked in the healthcare profession, I see great value in the nursing programs, and I see that as medical needs grow in the district, I think that is a program that needs to be evaluated and looked at. I don't believe in cutting nursing staff. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, without actually looking at the needs and being an informed trustee, which I'm not because I'm not privy to everything at the moment, I think that going and just arbitrarily looking at different cuts, I mean, that was one of the things that was discussed in the budget meeting. Nurses, I guess the two that I remember were nurses and special needs, special ed. Those were the two that kind of went like this. That I think we need to really think about before cutting. But with more juvenile diabetes, peanut allergies, and the heart defects that are there, I'm sorry. I just think that there's too much liability, and when it comes to the safety and health of our students and our staff, that would be something I could just say, see ya, it's not responsible leadership. So that's how I feel about it.
Catherine?
To give a little context, I think, to the question, at the last budget workshop in RRISD, there was a staffing study that was presented, and the recommendation, just to ease parents' fears, was not to cut school nurses. The recommendation was to, as RNs, registered nurses, leave, to replace them with LVNs, licensed vocational nurses, instead of registered nurses, and to have a registered nurse at one campus who would travel. And I immediately did have questions at the time, and honestly, I don't know enough about what can a registered nurse do that an LVN can't do. What sorts of needs are there? So I think that's a change that certainly needs to be carefully evaluated, because the safety of the kids has got to be paramount. And that, I will tell you, by the time I got home from that meeting, I had emails from 3 different school nurses telling me that they were more than willing to sit down with me and educate me about that issue. And so that's something that I'm committed to hearing more about. I think we do have to be careful before just doing something that looks like it may be savings, ultimately may cost us something more important.
This question actually segues better to the first question than you would think. At the budget meeting, when this data was rolled out, it was rolled out by HR as a staffing measure to cut costs. There were no nurses there to supply any medical data, what we do, what we don't do, what we're facing, what epidemics we have. From a personal and adult point, my daughter has a severe peanut allergy, and she goes into anaphylactic shock. We had an LV in our first year on campus. She told me not to worry about it, but she started breathing bad. The teachers would sit her down. If you know anything about anaphylactic shock, if you're already breathing bad, you've lost the battle. We got an RN in the lab the next year, and the RN has worked to teach all the teachers what to look for if she has a rash. And it's not just my child. The food allergies are a horrible epidemic right now. Juvenile diabetes has increased. Asthmatics have increased. The severe medical needs of our children have increased since most of us were in school. And to solely base that decision on, well, RNs make about 50 and LVNs make about 25, so we can say 25, I think is horribly negligent, because unless you have a child who has a severe medical need, so you know from your personal issues that number's gone up, there's no way for the board to have known that because the administration didn't present it. They just presented the numbers. So I would absolutely not be in favor of replacing RNs with LVNs unless it was on a campus study was done and we have one campus who doesn't really have any needs. Okay, that's fine. But if it's more than just Band-Aids on boo-boos, I think we need RNs.
I would say in terms of that, again, it was the start of a conversation of budget meeting that it's not the end, and it wasn't, and no decisions, of course, will be made. It was just an opening conversation that, again, more data is, others have pointed out, would need to be presented to the school board. We would always, at least, especially me and others that are currently on the board, would want to examine that differentiation between, not only between an LVN and RN, but more importantly, what are the current needs of the students within the school, because our bottom line is we would never do anything intentionally to put any of our students at risk. So we would definitely want to look at what would be, if we made that change, for what would be the implications beyond just talking about saving money, because our children are worth more than any dollar amount that any of us could have a conversation about. So I would be a strong, I would definitely not support anything where I felt that we would be putting our children at risk. So I would always say that we do need nurses, so I'm not advocating for the cutting of nurses. But again, I would want to have more information, detailed information beyond what was given for our initial conversation about what that role would look like, what's the differentiation between what our LVN can actually do versus that RN, as well as how would that play out and what are the current needs of students who are under supervision of our campus nurses at individuals.